The Terran vessel Nemesis emerged from the quantum fold with a silence that belied its power. Captain Michael Chin leaned forward in his command chair, dark eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded the bridge. The ship's stealth systems were operating at peak efficiency, not that it mattered much. The Nemesis didn't need to hide. Nothing in this sector of the galaxy could stand against it. "Status report," Chin said, his voice calm despite the tension that hung in the air. Lieutenant Rodriguez tapped at her console, the soft blue light illuminating her focused expression. "All systems nominal, Captain. No sign of Crack's vessels within sensor range, but the distress signal is still transmitting from the mining colony." Chin nodded. The mining colony on Epsilon 6 was small. Just 300 humans trying to make a living on the frontier. They wouldn't stand a chance against Crack's raiders without help. Help that was expressly forbidden by the Galactic Council's Resolution 157. No Terran warship of Eclipse class or above shall operate beyond Sol's heliosphere. Yet here they were, 40 light-years from home, breaking at least 3 interstellar treaties. "The Council can court-martial me when we get back," Chen had told Admiral Takahashi before departing. "I won't leave our people to die." The bridge fell silent as the main view screen shifted to show Epsilon 6, a dusty, copper-colored world with 2 small moons. Somewhere on that surface, humans were fighting for their lives. "Lieutenant Park, prepare ground teams. Lieutenant Rodriguez, begin active scans. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The Nemesis was humanity's best-kept secret and worst diplomatic nightmare. After the Battle of Proxima Centauri 10 years ago, where a single prototype human vessel had destroyed an entire Crack's battle fleet, the other spacefaring species had convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The resolution was unanimous: humans were to be contained. Their warship technology was deemed evolutionarily disruptive and a destabilizing influence on galactic peace. The aliens had valid reasons to fear. What the Council didn't know was that the Nemesis made that prototype look like a child's toy. "Captain, I'm detecting 7 Crack's warships in orbit around Epsilon 6, Rodriguez reported, her voice tight. "They've deployed ground forces to the colony. Life signs are fading." Chen's jaw clenched. "How long until they detect us?" "At current distance? 3 minutes, maybe 4. He took a deep breath. The Nemesis was banned because it wasn't just a warship, it was a statement. Human ingenuity had taken alien technologies and transformed them into something the original inventors couldn't comprehend. The quantum fold drive was Arcturian. The plasma cannons were based on Vespid designs. The neural interface targeting systems were reverse-engineered from captured Crack's vessels. But it was the human elements, the things no alien had ever considered, that made the Nemesis truly terrifying. "Open a channel to the mining colony," Chen ordered. After a moment of static, a harried voice came through. "This is Head Administrator Diane Foster." "Who?" The transmission cut through bursts of weapons fire. "Earth sent someone?" "Administrator Foster, this is Captain Chin of the TEV Nemesis. Hold your position. Help is coming." There was a pause, then a choked laugh. "The Nemesis? That's not possible. The Council banned." "The Council isn't here," Chin interrupted. "We are. Keep your people alive for 10 more minutes." He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant Harper, target the Crack's command vessel. Minimal yield, I don't want debris raining down on the colony." Harper nodded, his fingers dancing across the weapons console. "Target locked, Captain." Chin stood, straightening his uniform. "The Council calls us dangerous. Unpredictable. They're right. That's why we're going to win." He paused, meeting the eyes of each bridge officer. "Humanity didn't fight its way to the stars to abandon our own. If helping our people means becoming the monster the galaxy fears, so be it." The moment of truth had arrived. Every officer on the bridge knew they might never see Earth again if the Council decided to make an example of them. They might end up prisoners or worse. But not one of them hesitated. "Fire." The Nemesis announced its presence with a single, precisely targeted plasma lance that cut through the Crack's command ship like a hot knife through butter. The other 6 vessels immediately broke orbit, sensors frantically scanning for the source of the attack. They were about to discover why the most powerful species in the galaxy had banned this single class of human warship. And why humans had built it anyway. Because when it came to protecting their own, humans didn't follow rules. They rewrote them. The Crack's vessels scattered like startled insects, their formation dissolving into chaos. The Nemesis hung in the void, its matte black hull absorbing sensor sweeps and rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Only the faintest shimmer of its energy shields betrayed its position. "They're panicking," Rodriguez observed, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Crack's fleet is breaking into 3 groups. Looks like they're trying to triangulate our position." Chen nodded. The Cracks were warriors, not cowards. They wouldn't flee, even against a legendary vessel like the Nemesis. But they knew enough to be afraid. "Keep our signature minimal," Chen ordered. "Let them think we're still running silent. Lieutenant Harper, target their weapon systems only. I want those ships disabled, not destroyed." Harper raised an eyebrow. "Sir? These are the same Cracks who slaughtered the colony on Tau Ceti last year. And they'll answer for it," Chen replied firmly. "But not like this. We're not executioners." The weapons officer nodded reluctantly. The Nemesis wasn't just feared for its firepower, it was feared because humans wielded that power with restraint. Any species could build a planet killer. Only humans worried about whether they should use it. The ship's AI, nicknamed Morgan by the crew, spoke through the bridge speakers. "Captain, I've analyzed the Crack's communication patterns. They believe they're facing multiple Terran vessels." Chen smiled grimly. "Good. Let's encourage that belief. Morgan, initiate ghost protocols." "Acknowledged, Captain." The Nemesis possessed another uniquely human innovation, the ability to project false sensor signatures. Within moments, the Crack sensors would detect phantom warships appearing throughout the system. It wouldn't fool them for long, but it didn't need to. Below on Epsilon 6, the mining colonists had taken shelter in the deep tunnels they'd carved into the planet's crust. Administrator Foster's voice came through again, clearer this time. "Captain Chen, the Crack's ground forces are pulling back to their landers. Whatever you did up there, it's working. Stay hidden, Administrator. This isn't over." Lieutenant Park approached the captain's chair, her tablet displaying ground team readiness. "Strike teams prepped and ready, sir. We can deploy in 3 minutes." Chen studied the tactical display. The Crack's ships were regrouping, trying to form a defensive perimeter. It wouldn't help them. "Begin deployment. I want our people on the ground before the Cracks realize what's happening." As the bridge crew carried out his orders, Chen's mind drifted to the last Galactic Council meeting he'd attended as Earth's military attaché. The Arcturian representative had called humans cosmic toddlers playing with nuclear matches. The Vespid diplomat had suggested a permanent quarantine of the Sol system. And the Cracks had simply demanded Earth's unconditional surrender and the transfer of all military technology. What none of them understood was that humans had spent millennia fighting each other before reaching the stars. Their history was written in blood and conflict, but also in peace treaties, ethical codes, and laws of war. Humans knew the horrors of unchecked power because they had inflicted those horrors on themselves. The Nemesis wasn't just the most advanced warship in the galaxy. It was the product of a species that had looked into the abyss of its own violence and decided to do better. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, "Crack's flagship is charging weapons. They've found us. Shields to maximum. Prepare countermeasures." The Crack's vessel, a bristling dreadnought 3 times the size of the Nemesis, fired a barrage of plasma torpedoes. The space between the ships lit up like a miniature sun as the torpedoes detonated against the Nemesis' shields. The bridge rocked slightly. "Nothing more." "Shields holding at 92%, Morgan reported calmly. "They're jamming our communications with the ground teams," Rodriguez added. Chen's expression hardened. "Release the drones." From hidden compartments in the Nemesis' hull, hundreds of autonomous combat drones launched in perfect formation. Each was the size of a human fist, nearly invisible to sensors, and equipped with targeting systems that could identify friend from foe with unnerving accuracy. The cracks had never encountered anything like them. Their point defense systems had been designed to counter missiles and fighters, not swarms of microscopic hunters. Drones are penetrating their shields, Harper reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Targeting their weapon systems and communication arrays. On the view screen, the cracks' vessels began to go dark, section by section, as the drones systematically disabled their systems without destroying the ships themselves. In his command chair, Chen felt the weight of the moment. The Nemesis represented everything the galaxy feared about humanity: their resourcefulness, their determination, their willingness to break rules. But it also represented everything humans hoped to be: protectors, peacekeepers, a force that could end conflicts rather than escalate them. First wave of ground teams has reached the colony, Park announced. Medical units are deploying. We have 27 critically injured colonists being prepped for emergency transport. Chen nodded. Tell them to hurry. We won't have much time before, Sir, Rodriguez interrupted, her voice tense. I'm detecting quantum fold signatures. Multiple vessels incoming. The bridge fell silent. There was only one species that could have responded so quickly. The Arcturians, Chen said quietly. Looks like the Council got wind of our little expedition. As if on cue, 5 sleek vessels materialized at the edge of the system. Arcturian peacekeepers, the self-appointed police force of the Galactic Council. The real battle was about to begin. The Arcturian vessels approached in perfect formation, their iridescent hulls gleaming against the darkness of space. Unlike the brutish cracks ships, these were elegant, almost artistic in design, belying their deadly capabilities. Captain Chen had seen Arcturian peacekeepers in action before. Their reputation for clinical precision was well-earned. They're hailing us, Rodriguez reported, her voice tight. Chen straightened his uniform. On screen. The view screen flickered, revealing the lean, silver-skinned face of an Arcturian commander. His pupilless eyes, solid orbs of swirling blue, regarded Chen with cold calculation. Captain Michael Chen of Earth, the Arcturian said, his voice melodic despite the obvious threat beneath it. I am High Executor Valen of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. You are in violation of Resolution 157. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Chen met the alien's gaze steadily. High Executor, we're conducting a rescue operation. The cracks attacked a legally established human mining colony. We responded to their distress call. Your response using forbidden technology constitutes a greater breach of galactic law than the cracks' incursion, Valen stated flatly. The Nemesis is to be impounded and your crew detained pending trial before the Council. Lieutenant Harper muttered something under his breath. Chen shot him a warning glance before returning his attention to the screen. Our evacuation of wounded colonists is still underway, Chen said. Grant us 2 hours to complete the medical evacuations, and we'll surrender peacefully. The Arcturians' eyes swirled faster, a sign of agitation in their species. You have 30 minutes, Captain. Not 1 second more. The transmission cut off abruptly. He's lying, Park said immediately. The moment our shields are down, they'll disable our systems. Chen nodded grimly. Morgan, how many colonists have been evacuated? 143, Captain, the AI responded. 157 remain on the planet, including 42 with critical injuries. Rodriguez looked up from her console. Sir, the Arcturians are deploying smaller vessels. They're surrounding us. 30 minutes. It wasn't enough time to save everyone, and Chen knew it. He also knew the Arcturians wouldn't negotiate further. In their minds, the Nemesis represented an existential threat to galactic stability. They weren't entirely wrong. Chen closed his eyes briefly, weighing impossible choices. When he opened them, his decision was made. Lieutenant Park, contact our ground teams. Tell them we have 25 minutes to evacuate everyone. Priority to the wounded. Sir, that's not enough. It's all we have, Chen interrupted. Lieutenant Harper, keep our weapons powered but passive. I don't want to provoke the Arcturians unless absolutely necessary. Chen tapped a button on his chair. Engineering, this is the captain. I need everything you can give me on the medical transporters. Boost power from non-essential systems. On the colony below, the situation was deteriorating. Administrator Foster's voice crackled through the comms, strained and desperate. Captain, the remaining Crack's ground forces are regrouping. They're attacking the eastern compound where we have most of our wounded. Chen's jaw tightened. Morgan, how many combat drones do we have left? 417 operational units, Captain. Redirect 200 to the eastern compound. Full defensive protocols. Lieutenant Rodriguez Sue. Denley stiffened at her station. Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the Arcturian vessels. They're charging some kind of dampening field. The suppressor, Chen whispered, cold realization washing over him. The bridge crew fell silent. The suppressor wasn't just a weapon. It was a mythical device rumored to shut down all technological systems within its range. No shields, no weapons, no engines. Not even life support would be spared. They wouldn't, Harper said, his face pale. There are wounded colonists. They would, Chen cut him off. The Arcturians see themselves as the guardians of galactic order. If they have to sacrifice a few hundred humans to prevent what they see as a greater threat, they will. Rodriguez swallowed visibly. Suppressor will be fully charged in 18 minutes. The same amount of time they had left to evacuate the colonists. It wasn't a coincidence. Chen pressed the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We have less than 20 minutes before the Arcturians deploy a suppressor. Emergency protocols are now in effect. He turned to his bridge crew. Here's what we're going to do. For the next 10 minutes, the Nemesis became a hive of frantic activity. Medical transporters worked at maximum capacity, beaming up injured colonists 3 and 4 at a time, dangerous overloads that the safety protocols would normally prevent. Engineering teams rerouted power, bypassing safety systems to squeeze every last ounce of energy from the ship's reactors. 16 minutes until suppressor activation, Morgan announced calmly. On the view screen, Chen could see the Arcturian ships tightening their formation. The Crack's vessels, damaged but still operational, had taken up position on the far side of the planet, waiting, watching. Sir, Rodriguez called out, we're receiving an encrypted transmission. It's from Admiral Takahashi. Chen blinked in surprise. Put it through to my console. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on the small screen. Her expression was grave. Chen, the Council's furious. They're calling for your court-martial. Some are even suggesting Earth should be sanctioned. Admiral, we couldn't just... I know, she interrupted. I would have done the same. That's not why I'm contacting you. She leaned closer to the camera. The defiance and the audacity are en route to your position. Chen's eyes widened. 2 more Eclipse-class ships, equal in power to the Nemesis. It was an open declaration of war against the Council's restrictions. Admiral, that could trigger a full-scale conflict. Takahashi's expression hardened. Perhaps it's time the Council learned that banning our ships doesn't make us any less capable of defending our people. You have your orders, Captain. Hold your position until reinforcements arrive. The transmission ended, leaving Chen staring at a blank screen. 13 minutes until suppressor activation, Morgan reported. Chen looked up at the view screen, at the Arcturian ships preparing to disable his vessel, at the planet below where human colonists still awaited rescue. Then he looked at his crew, men and women who had known from the start that this mission might be their last. The arrival of 2 more human warships would change everything. The Arcturians would have no choice but to back down, or start a war they couldn't win. But the reinforcements wouldn't arrive for hours. They had 13 minutes. Chen made his decision. Lieutenant Harper, charge all weapons. Lieutenant Rodriguez, drop our stealth protocols and divert that power to shields. The bridge crew stared at him in shock. Sir? Harper questioned. Chen's eyes were steel. If the Arcturians want to see what the Nemesis is truly capable of, I say we show them. As alarms blared throughout the ship, the true power of humanity's most feared warship began to awaken. Systems that had been running at minimal capacity surged to life. Weapons that had been deliberately restrained now charged to full capacity. The Nemesis had been holding back. It was about to hold back no longer, and somewhere in the vastness of space, 2 more human warships were racing toward them, carrying a message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The stage was set for a confrontation that would either end in catastrophe or a new understanding between species. 12 minutes remained. 11 minutes to suppressor activation, Morgan announced, her synthetic voice unnervingly calm amid the controlled chaos of the bridge. Chen locked eyes with each of his senior officers. If anyone wants to object to what we're about to do, now's the time. No one spoke. They had crossed a line the moment they left Earth's orbit. There was no going back. Lieutenant Harper, target the lead Arcturian vessel's propulsion systems. Minimal yield, we're sending a message, not starting a war. Harper's fingers danced over his console. Target locked, sir. Chin drew a deep breath. Fire. A single concentrated beam of energy lanced from the Nemesis, striking the Arcturian flagship with surgical precision. The alien vessel shuddered, its engines flickering before going dark. Direct hit. Their main engines are offline, Harper reported, surprised at how easily they had disabled what should have been the most advanced shielding in the galaxy. The reaction was immediate. The remaining Arcturian vessels broke formation, their weapons charging. Incoming fire. Rodriguez called out. The Nemesis rocked as energy blasts struck its shields. The bridge lights dimmed momentarily before stabilizing. Shields holding at 84%, Morgan reported. Chin opened a channel to the Arcturians. Hi Executor Volin, this was a warning shot. We will not interfere with your peacekeeping mandate, but we will complete our rescue mission. Power down your suppressor, or the next target will be your weapons systems. For several tense seconds, there was no response. Then Valen's face appeared on screen, his silver features contorted in what humans had learned to recognize as barely contained rage. This act of aggression will not be forgotten, Captain Chin, the Arcturian said coldly. You've just sealed Earth's fate. Before Chen could respond, the transmission cut off. Almost immediately, the remaining Arcturian ships began to reposition. They're forming an attack pattern, Rodriguez observed. And wait. She frowned at her console. The suppressor is still charging, but I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations from the disabled Arcturian vessel. Specify, Chin demanded. It's like nothing I've ever, Rodriguez began, when suddenly the disabled Arcturian flagship began to transform. Its sleek hull plates shifted and reconfigured, weapon systems previously hidden emerging from concealed compartments. What the hell? Harper whispered, but Morgan's voice cut through their shock. Captain, I'm detecting cracks energy signatures from within the Arcturian vessel. A cold realization washed over Chen. It's a trap. As if confirming his words, the supposedly disabled Arcturian ship's outer hull peeled away like a cocoon, revealing a Krax dreadnought nested inside. The hollowed out Arcturian vessel had been nothing but a shell, a Trojan horse. All hands to battle stations. Chen ordered, just as the revealed Krax vessel fired its main cannon. The blast struck the Nemesis with devastating force. The bridge crew were thrown from their stations as consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Shields at 42%. Morgan reported, her voice distorted by damage to the ship's systems. Hull breach on decks 5 through 7. Chen pulled himself back into his chair, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Return fire. Full spread. The Nemesis unleashed its arsenal, but the Krax dreadnought's shields held. Meanwhile, the genuine Arcturian vessels maintained their distance, weapons charged but holding fire. Sir, Park called out from her damaged station, the Krax are jamming our transporters. We can't evacuate any more colonists. Chen's mind raced. This was no coincidence. The Krax and Arcturians working together? Impossible. Unless, the suppressor, Chen said suddenly. It was never meant for us. Morgan, analyze the suppressor's target trajectory. After a moment, the AI responded. Recalculated trajectory indicates the suppressor is aimed at the Krax dreadnought, not the Nemesis. The pieces fell into place with terrifying clarity. The Arcturians hadn't known about the hidden Krax vessel. They'd been infiltrated, their flagship commandeered from within. The suppressor wasn't meant to disable the Nemesis. It was the Arcturians' desperate attempt to stop the Crack's dreadnought. Open a channel to High Executor Volin, Chin ordered. Now. Rodriguez worked her damaged console. Channel open. High Executor, your flagship has been compromised, Chin said urgently. The Cracks have hidden a dreadnought inside its hull. Your suppressor, you're trying to stop them, not us. Valen's face appeared on the view screen, genuine surprise evident in his swirling blue eyes. Impossible. Our vessels are, look at your own sensor readings, Chin interrupted. The ship matches Arcturian specifications on the outside only. Your sensors can penetrate the hull just as ours can. A look of horror spread across the Arcturian's face as he presumably received confirmation from his own crew. By the first light, how did we not detect this? That doesn't matter now, Chin pressed. What matters is that your suppressor won't penetrate their shields at full strength. But we can help. The Nemesis can create an opening for your weapon. Vaughn hesitated, centuries of distrust warring with immediate necessity. Why would you assist us after we threatened you? Because unlike what the Council believes, humans don't seek conflict, Chin replied. We'll help you stop the Cracks, and in return, you let us complete our evacuation. Deal? Another moment of hesitation, then a curt nod. Very well, Captain. What do you propose? As Chin outlined his desperate plan, the Crack's dreadnought launched a barrage of torpedoes, not at the Nemesis or the Arcturian ships, but toward the colony on Epsilon 6. They're targeting the colonists. Park shouted in horror. Chen's blood ran cold. Morgan, intercept those torpedoes. Use all remaining drones. Insufficient drone coverage to intercept all torpedoes, Morgan responded. Calculating optimal distribution for maximum civilian survival. On the view screen, they watched as the Nemesis' combat drones raced to intercept the torpedoes. Some were successfully destroyed, detonating harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. Others slipped through. Rodriguez's voice was barely audible. Impact in 30 seconds. In that moment, Chen made a decision that would either save the colony or doom his ship. Divert all power to the gravitational tether. Target those torpedoes. Sir, Harper objected, that would leave us defenseless against. Do it, Chen ordered. The gravitational tether was the Nemesis' most closely guarded secret, a weapon that could manipulate the fabric of space-time itself, creating a localized gravitational field powerful enough to redirect objects in flight. It had never been tested at this range or against multiple targets. Tether engaged, Morgan announced. The ship groaned as massive amounts of energy were channeled into a single system. On the view screen, the torpedoes' trajectories began to curve, pulled off course by an invisible force. It's working! Park exclaimed, but their victory was short-lived. Taking advantage of the Nemesis' vulnerability, the Crack's dreadnought launched a direct assault. Without shields, the human warship was exposed. Brace for impact! Chen shouted. The bridge crew clung to their stations as the Crack's weapons found their mark. Explosions ripped through the Nemesis, destroying entire sections of the ship. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, isolating the damaged areas. Hull integrity critical, Morgan reported, her voice now interrupted by static. Main reactor containment failing. As smoke filled the bridge and warning alarms blared, Chen looked at the tactical display. The torpedoes had been diverted, the colony saved, for now. But the Nemesis was crippled, unable to defend itself or the colonists from further attack. 7 minutes until suppressor activation, Morgan announced. Chen gripped the arms of his command chair, even as part of the ceiling collapsed nearby. They had 7 minutes to create an opening in the Crack's dreadnought's shields, or the suppressor would fail. 7 minutes to save the colony, the Arcturians, and perhaps prevent a galactic war, and they had to do it with a dying ship. Through the viewscreen static, Chen could see the Crack's dreadnought turning toward them, weapons charging for a killing blow. Behind it, the Arcturian vessels moved into position, preparing to deploy their suppressor the moment an opportunity presented itself. It all came down to what the Nemesis, humanity's most feared and banned warship, had left to give. Chen tapped his damaged console. Engineering, this is the captain. I need a miracle, Through the static-filled response, he heard his chief engineer's grim laugh. Funny you should ask, sir. We might have just the thing. Chief Engineer Hiroshi Tanaka's voice crackled through the damaged comms. Captain, remember that experimental core modification we weren't supposed to tell the council about? Despite everything, Chen felt a smile tug at his lips. The one that technically violates 17 different treaty provisions? I recall something about it. It's ready. But sir, I should warn you, we've never tested it outside simulation. If the containment field fails, Chen looked around at his bridge crew, bloodied, exhausted, but unwavering. If we do nothing, we lose everything. Make it happen, Tanaka. Aye, Captain. Core reconfiguration initiating. Lieutenant Rodriguez wiped blood from her console, checking readings. Sir, the Krax dreadnought is positioning for a final strike. Their main cannon is charging. Morgan, status of the colony evacuation. Chen asked. The AI's voice stuttered through damaged systems. 211 colonists evacuated. 89 remain on surface, including 32 critically wounded. 6 minutes until suppressor activation. Not enough time to evacuate everyone, even if their transporters hadn't been damaged. Open a channel to High Executor Vulin, Chen ordered. The Arcturian commander appeared on screen, his vessel's bridge showing similar signs of battle damage. We are running out of time, Captain Chen. I need a favor, Chen said. Your transporters are still operational. Can you evacuate our remaining colonists? Valen's swirling eyes widened slightly. You would trust us with your people? I'm trusting that you understand what's really at stake here. This isn't just about one colony or one band warship. If the Krax succeed today, they'll try this infiltration tactic against other Council worlds. The Arcturian was silent for a moment. Very well. Sending transport coordinates now. Rodriguez confirmed. Receiving Arcturian transport data. They're actually doing it, sir. 5 minutes to suppressor activation, Morgan announced. From engineering, Tanaka's voice returned. Captain, core reconfiguration at 60%. We need at least 4 more minutes. Chen grimaced. We may not have 4 minutes. On the tactical display, he could see the Krax dreadnought's weapons reaching critical charge. Lieutenant Harper, what offensive capabilities do we still have? Harper shook his head. Main weapons are offline. Secondary arrays at 12% capacity, not enough to penetrate their shields. What about our remaining drones? 23 operational units, Morgan reported. Not nearly enough. Chen stared at the view screen, watching as the massive Krax vessel loomed closer, its weapon ports glowing with building energy. They needed more time, just a few minutes more. Sir, Park called suddenly, I'm receiving a transmission from the colony. It's Administrator Foster. Put her through. Foster's face appeared, smudged with dirt and ash. Behind her, the colony's command center was in ruins. Captain, the Arcturians just contacted us. They're beginning emergency transport of our wounded. Get your people ready. That's not why I'm calling, Foster interrupted. Our mining charges. We have enough explosive material to create a distraction. Maybe buy you some time. Chen shook his head. Absolutely not. You need to evacuate with the others. Foster's expression hardened. With respect, Captain, we started this colony because we were tired of others making decisions for us. This is our home, and we're not abandoning it to the Krax. Besides, she added with a grim smile, someone needs to set the charges manually. Before Chen could argue further, the transmission cut off. Morgan, can we beam her out? Chen demanded. Negative, Captain. Our transporters remain inoperative. 4 minutes to suppressor activation. On the tactical display, Chen watched as Foster and a small team of colonists moved through the underground mining tunnels, placing explosive charges at key structural points. She's targeting the planetary crust directly beneath the Krax landing parties, Rodriguez observed quietly. Lieutenant Park turned from her station. Sir, Administrator Foster is activating the charges. The surface of Epsilon 6 erupted as dozens of mining explosives detonated simultaneously. The explosions weren't powerful enough to threaten the planet's stability, but they created massive shockwaves that rippled through the crack's ground forces. More importantly, the electromagnetic pulse from the synchronized detonations created a momentary distortion in the dreadnought's sensor grid. The crack's vessel is recalibrating its targeting systems, Harper reported. Their firing sequence has been interrupted. Chen felt a mixture of gratitude and grief. Foster and her team had bought them precious time, but at what cost? Captain, Tanaka called from engineering, core reconfiguration at 85%. 3 more minutes. 3 minutes until the suppressor activated. It would be close. The bridge rocked violently as the crack's dreadnought, having recovered from the momentary disruption, fired a volley of secondary weapons at the Nemesis. Hull breach on decks 3 through 8. Morgan reported. Life support failing in multiple sections. Rodriguez looked up from her console, her expression grim. Sir, I've lost contact with the colony. No life signs detected at Administrator Foster's last position. Chen closed his eyes briefly, honoring their sacrifice. Then he straightened in his chair. Redirect all remaining power to engineering. Core reconfiguration is our priority now. 2 minutes to suppressor activation, Morgan announced that on the view screen, the crack's dreadnought was repositioning, its main cannon once again building to critical charge. The Arcturian vessels maintained their formation, their suppressor nearly ready but useless against the dreadnought's shields. Core reconfiguration at 92%, Tanaka reported. Almost there, Captain. The Nemesis shuddered as another volley struck its unprotected hull. Warning lights flashed across every console. Smoke filled the bridge as fire suppression systems struggled to keep up. 1 minute to suppressor activation, Morgan's voice was now barely recognizable through the damaged speakers. Core reconfiguration complete. Tanaka shouted triumphantly. Quantum resonance field ready on your command, Captain. Chen opened a channel to the Arcturian flagship. High Executor, prepare to fire your suppressor on my mark. Valen nodded. Ready, Captain Chen. Chen took a deep breath. Morgan, activate quantum resonance field. The damaged ship groaned as the experimental technology came online. Unlike anything seen before in the galaxy, the quantum resonance field didn't create a barrier around the Nemesis. It created a tunnel of altered space-time, connecting the ship directly to the crack's dreadnought. Field established, Morgan confirmed. Warning, core stability at critical levels. Through the tunnel, the Nemesis could direct its remaining energy directly at the crack's vessel, bypassing its shields entirely. It was brilliant, insane, and entirely human in its audacity. 30 seconds to suppressor activation, Morgan counted down. Fire everything we've got left, Chen ordered. Target their shield generators. The Nemesis channeled its dying breath through the quantum tunnel. On the tactical display, Chen watched as the energy struck the crack's dreadnought precisely where its shields were generated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a crack spreading through glass, the dreadnought's shields began to fail. Shield disruption confirmed. Harper shouted. They're vulnerable. Now, High Executor. Chen ordered. The Arcturian suppressor fired, its energy wave passing through the quantum tunnel created by the Nemesis. Enhanced by the tunnel's properties, the wave struck the dreadnought with devastating force. Throughout the crack's vessel, systems began to shut down. Weapons, engines, life support, everything. Crack's dreadnought disabled, Morgan reported. All systems offline. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced as the Nemesis lurched violently. Captain, the quantum tunnel is collapsing, Tanaka warned. The core can't maintain stabili. Tai. Chen didn't hesitate. All hands, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods. As his crew rushed to evacuate, Chen remained at his post, manually rerouting power to maintain life support in the sections where crew members were still trying to reach escape pods. Park paused at the bridge exit. Captain, we need to go. I'll be right behind you, Chen promised. Go. The bridge emptied, leaving only Chen and the ship's AI. The view screen showed escape pods launching from the dying vessel, racing toward the Arcturian ships that now moved to retrieve them. Core breach imminent, Morgan announced calmly. 30 seconds to detonation. Chen nodded, finally rising from his chair. It's been an honor, Morgan. Likewise, Captain Chen. He made it halfway to the emergency lift when the ship rocked again, more violently than before. A support beam collapsed, pinning him to the deck. Pain shot through his leg as he struggled to free himself. Core breach in 20 seconds, Morgan counted down. Chen stopped struggling, accepting his fate. The Nemesis had accomplished its mission. The colony survivors were safe. His crew was evacuating. It was enough. Then, unexpectedly, the weight of the beam lifted. Chen looked up to see a figure in an Arcturian environmental suit standing over him. "Hi, Executor." Valen's voice came through the suit speaker. "The Council would be most displeased if I left the notorious Captain Chen to become a martyr, wouldn't they?" "Core breach in 10 seconds, Morgan warned. The Arcturian lifted Chen effortlessly, their species was stronger than they appeared, and activated a personal transporter. As the device engaged, Chen caught a final glimpse of the Nemesis bridge. "Goodbye, old friend," he whispered. The world dissolved around him in a shimmer of light. When it reformed, he was on the bridge of the Arcturian flagship, surrounded by silver-skinned aliens regarding him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Through the view screen, he watched as the Nemesis erupted in a blinding flash, the core breach destroying the legendary warship completely. Nearby, the disabled Krax dreadnought drifted helplessly, its crew at the mercy of the Arcturians. "Your crew has been retrieved," Valen informed him. "As have all surviving colonists." Chen nodded gratefully. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet, Captain," the Arcturian replied. "You have still violated Council law. You will face trial." "I understand," Chen said. "But perhaps the Council might reconsider their position on human warships after today." Valen's swirling eyes studied him thoughtfully. "Perhaps. Especially in light of what we discovered aboard the Krax vessel." Chen frowned. "What did you find?" The High Executor gestured to a console. On the screen appeared images of data files recovered from the dreadnought, detailed infiltration plans not just for Arcturian vessels, but for every major species in the Council. "The Krax have been planning this for decades," Valen explained. "They sought to turn the Council against itself, starting with humanity, the youngest, most isolated species. And by banning our ships, the Council made it easier for them," Chen realized. "We couldn't patrol our own colonies without risking sanctions." Valen nodded. "An uncomfortable truth the Council must now confront." As the Arcturian fleet prepared to depart the system, Chen received word that all his crew had survived. Amid the relief, he felt a profound sense of loss for the Nemesis, and for Administrator Foster and her brave team. "Sir," Rodriguez approached him, her uniform torn and bloodied but her expression triumphant. "Admiral Takahashi reports the Defiance and Audacity have turned back. No need to risk further diplomatic incidents." Chen smiled tiredly. "Good. I think we've made our point." "Captain," Vaughn called from across the bridge. "You may wish to see this." On the long-range sensors, a small spacecraft was rising from Epsilon VI's surface, a mining shuttle, heavily damaged but still operational. "We're receiving a transmission," an Arcturian officer reported. The view screen activated, showing Administrator Foster's grinning, soot-covered face. "Sorry about the dramatic exit, Captain. Thought it best to let the Krax think they'd taken us out." Chen laughed despite himself. "Administrator Foster, you continue to surprise me." "It's what we humans do best, isn't it?" she replied. "Speaking of surprises, you might want to check what we found in the deep mines before we blew them up. Turns out there's a reason the Krax were so interested in our little colony." She held up a crystal, translucent blue with swirls of energy moving within it. Chen recognized it immediately, though he'd only seen images in classified briefings. "Quantum matrix crystals," he breathed. "The rarest energy source in the galaxy." Foster nodded. Enough to power an entire fleet of ships like the Nemesis. Or to build something new, something the Council might actually approve of. As the implications sank in, Chen turned to Valen, whose expression suggested he understood exactly what this meant. It seems, the Arcturian said slowly, that humanity's role in galactic affairs is about to change significantly. In the ruins of one mining colony and the destruction of humanity's most feared warship, a new future was taking shape, one where humans might finally take their place as equals in the galactic community, not through force of arms, but through a resource that could change everything. Chen looked out at the stars, feeling both victory and loss, triumph and sacrifice. The Nemesis was gone, but its legacy would echo throughout the galaxy. And perhaps, just perhaps, they had found something more valuable than the most powerful warship ever built. They had found a way forward. 3 months later, Captain Michael Chen stood before the Galactic Council chambers on Arcturia Prime. The circular hall was packed with representatives from every spacefaring species, their murmurs creating a constant background hum that echoed off the vaulted ceiling. Chen wore his formal Terran fleet uniform, the insignia of Earth gleaming on his chest. Behind him sat his senior officers, Rodriguez, Harper, Park, and Tanaka, all similarly attired and sitting with military posture. They had been through hearings, debriefings, and diplomatic sessions for weeks. Today would finally bring resolution. The High Chancellor, a Vespid whose translucent wings shimmered in the chamber's light, raised her appendages for silence. This council has reviewed all evidence regarding the Epsilon 6 incident, the destruction of the Terran vessel Nemesis, and the subsequent discoveries. High Executor Valen, please deliver your final assessment. Valen stepped forward. In the months since the battle, Chen had come to respect the Arcturian's rigid sense of justice, which, surprisingly, included a willingness to admit when the Council had been wrong. The evidence is conclusive, Valen stated, his melodic voice carrying throughout the chamber. The Krax Imperium has been engaged in a systematic campaign of infiltration and sabotage against Council worlds. Their attack on Epsilon 6 was merely one component of a larger strategy to destabilize interspecies relations. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing the intelligence recovered from the Krax dreadnought. Most concerning was their exploitation of Council Resolution 157, the ban on advanced Terran warships. By restricting humanity's defensive capabilities, we inadvertently created vulnerabilities the Krax sought to exploit. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Chen exchanged glances with Rodriguez, who gave him a subtle nod of encouragement. Furthermore, Valen continued, the actions of Captain Chen and the crew of the Nemesis, while in violation of Council law, ultimately prevented a catastrophic escalation. Their sacrifice. With respect, High Executor, Chen interrupted, rising to his feet. The real sacrifice came from the colonists of Epsilon 6, particularly Administrator Foster and her team. They risked everything to protect not just their home, but the stability of the Council itself. The High Chancellor tilted her head in acknowledgement. Administrator Foster, would you address the Council? From a different section of the chamber, Diane Foster stood. No longer covered in mining dust, she wore the simple but dignified attire of a colonial representative. The scar across her cheek, a reminder of the battle, did nothing to diminish her confident bearing. What happened at Epsilon 6 wasn't just about humans defending humans, Foster said, her voice strong. It was about recognizing when rules, even well-intentioned ones, become obstacles to the very peace they were meant to preserve. She activated her own holographic display, showing the quantum matrix crystals discovered in the colony's mines. These crystals represent more than just energy. They represent opportunity. An opportunity for humanity to contribute to the galactic community through resources and cooperation, rather than being defined solely by our military capabilities. The chamber fell silent as Foster's words sank in. Chen felt a swell of pride, not in the military victory they'd achieved, but in the vision Foster was articulating. A vision of humanity as partners rather than threats. After extensive deliberation, the High Chancellor delivered the Council's decision. Resolution 157 would be amended, allowing human warships to patrol and protect established colonies. In exchange, Earth would share the benefits of the quantum matrix crystals, establishing joint research initiatives with other council species. As the formal proceedings concluded, Chen found himself on one of the chamber's sweeping balconies, looking out over the crystalline spires of the Arcturian capital. The Nemesis was gone, but its legacy had transformed into something different than anyone could have predicted. Contemplating your unexpected diplomatic career, Captain? Vaughn asked, joining him at the railing. Chen smiled. Still getting used to it. Military decisions are simpler, threat or no threat, fire or don't fire. Yet you made the most complex decision of all, to trust an adversary when logic dictated otherwise. We had a common enemy. And now? Vaughn asked. Chen considered this. Now we have common goals. That's a stronger foundation for peace than any treaty or resolution. The Arcturian's eyes swirled thoughtfully. The Defiance and Audacity have been recommissioned under the new guidelines. Yes, but they're being retrofitted. Less focus on weapons, more on range and scientific capabilities. Admiral Takahashi calls it an evolution in our approach to space. And you? Will you command one of these evolved vessels? Chen shook his head. I've accepted a different assignment. I'll be overseeing the joint development project on Epsilon 6. Turns out Administrator Foster needs someone who understands both military and diplomatic protocols. Vaughn made the subtle gesture that Chen had learned was an Arcturian expression of approval. Your most dangerous weapon was never your warship, Captain. It was your species' remarkable ability to adapt. Later that evening, Chen met with his former crew for one final gathering before they dispersed to new assignments. They shared stories of the Nemesis, remembered those who hadn't survived the Crack's attack on the colony, and speculated about the future. To the Nemesis, Chen proposed, raising his glass. The most feared and banned warship in the galaxy. And to what comes next, Rodriguez added as they drank their toast. Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The Nemesis had been designed as the ultimate expression of human military might, a deterrent so powerful it had frightened an entire galaxy. Yet in the end, its greatest contribution hadn't been its weapons or its innovative systems. Its legacy was in proving that humanity's true strength lay not in overwhelming firepower, but in the courage to risk everything for others, the ingenuity to find solutions where none seemed possible, and the wisdom to choose cooperation when victory alone was not enough. The most feared warship in the galaxy had, in its final mission, become a bridge rather than a barrier. And perhaps that, Chen thought as he looked at his crew, his friends, was the most powerful legacy of all.